entrepreneur, pick up the pattern from the others in sports to see that this is one of the very principles that will make you better. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but if you want to be better, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and you're going to have to seek it. And don't be afraid to speak and say what it is you need to say, do what it is you need to do, or show up the way that you feel called to. Because that's how we grow. We don't grow from all being the same person, from all having the same mindset or same belief system.
Hey, Coach Dar, welcome to the show.
Steve, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, I got to see a part of you speak, not a part of you, all of you speak, but a part of your speech in Seattle recently. And we were both doing an event up there with Charlie Fusco. And I liked it, and I was intrigued. And then someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to be on the show?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And I love your take, and there's so much for us to go over, but I love your take on adversity. But I'm going to jump into the deep end. Everyone refers to you as Coach Dar.
Yes.
Okay, it's like having Queen, Lord, Lady, something. This title, and you own it because you're rather successful at being a coach. Give people an overview of your status as a coach and the arenas that you played in with it.
So I feel grateful and honored that I get to come alongside of some of the best athletes in the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, and MLS. So I am the individual mental skills coach to a lot of different players through many leagues, and also advise CEOs around the world. So I feel grateful because, they say I inspire them. They inspire me every day by how they get up and honestly how they show up every day, because it's a grind. It for sure is a grind, but they are so open to having coaching so they could stay at top of their game.
And that's a beautiful thing. A lot of people realize that you've got to get to a certain level to get a coach. And then when you get to a level, you don't need coaching anymore. The first thing I noticed, and obviously I was in a different industry, I was in my concierge industry, but being able to meet all of these, should we say, famous, prolific, well-known people, there wasn't one of them that didn't have a coach.
That's
and
right.
You would have the world's greatest boxer that nobody could beat. He had a coach. The greatest speechwriter had a coach. The greatest actor had a coach. Even though they were the greatest, they realized that they needed refining. How did you get into coaching?
I'm an occupational therapist by background, and the irony of this is my background's in neuroscience and neuropsychology. So I started out helping traumatic brain injury patients. So everything's centered around the brain. And that's where the whole foundation of my whole career of helping people is truly through neuro, which is the brain, human psychology, and then I moved into leadership because I went back to school for business as well. So in 2008, I started my own practice after I'd done a stint helping so many people in the healthcare space that I mixed science, psychology, and leadership in 2008 when all of this coaching and mental skills and mental fitness was definitely not what it is today. So I looked pretty much like the Elon Musk of saying we're going to have a self-driving car. When I told people, if you could shift your mindset and you could start working on your mental edge now, everything changes. And people thought, this lady is crazy. But it worked. It took a lot of years, but I knew what would help people. I just needed people to catch on.
Now you've got a book. I want you to tell people, what is it called, where they can grab it. Let's not wait to the end. Go.
So it's called The Art of Bouncing Back. You could buy it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any bookseller will have it now. It's launched nationwide, and it's really the people's book. I wrote this book because it's the mental skills. It helps you build the mental fortitude, the mental foundation to do just what I help the athletes do. Build their mental edge now, so when adversity comes, when a hit comes, when a challenge comes, you know exactly what to do to bounce back faster, because we're not going to be able to stop things hitting us or adversity, but we can get stronger and better when it comes and know what to do with it. And that's what the book does. It gives you the tools to know how to handle this.
No. There is no technical difficulty here, but I am jumping in to give you a PSA. if you like what you're hearing, if it's helping you, if it's benefiting you, I just want to let you know that there may be other ways that I can help you. Jump over to stevesims.com, learn about my speakeasies, learn about my Sims distillery, my coaching, any way that can help you. But again, if it helps you, great. If not, then listen to this podcast and at minimum, action what you're doing. Anyway, I'm going to get you back to your usual showing. Enjoy the rest of the show. Bye for now. Now, hanging around with the people I've hung around with, I've always found that, and it's been a common saying that a friend of mine once said, successful people allow their disasters, their downsides, their loss of millions, those mistakes to refine them, not define them. And we get stronger from those lessons of kind of like, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? You welcome that adversity because within that adversity is those nuggets. The first question I want to ask, and especially based on your background, is why that's a common thing. Everyone knows the magic's in the problems, but why, therefore, are people still moaning that that's a negative? Why are they still running away from the adversity rather than the successful people and the athletes grabbing it? Why?
Because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, even though we know it. It's painful. It's like, this adversity is uncomfortable. This is painful. And people just assume if I don't have to deal with it, it'll just go away. And that's the opposite of what happens. The greats know this is a challenge. The sooner we face it and embrace it, that's why the first chapter is called Embrace the Suck. As soon as we embrace this, we know what to do with it, and then we can move forward. But a majority of people go, oh, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to deal with this. I just want to coast through life. That's not life, and that's not how you get better.
Wow, I've never seen it put so simply and eloquently. You're right, people. It's that uncomfortable nature. So how can someone, to be able to handle adversity, the first thing you've got to do is recognize it.
That's right.
How can people actually realize that where they are is actually a golden nugget to be able to grow? How can they recognize where they are is a problem that could actually be a benefit?
Here's the thing. It's twofold. So a problem could be a problem you created. So you really want to recognize it so you could learn from it to not recreate it. Or it's a problem that was out of your control. That's in something happened in business, supply chain, whatever it may be. You couldn't control those things, but you see this as now, how can we use this problem to be innovative, to make shifts, to find refinements that we wouldn't have thought of before? Because when you start to look at the problem as future possibilities, game changer, you just reframed your mindset.
Now, I don't want to harp on COVID, but the world's changed. How were we prior to COVID handling this adversity and the growth from it, as opposed to now? Has anything changed?
I do think that there's so many more people that are more agile, because before it was a problem came and we would break. It was so black and white. We needed it to be like this, and if it wasn't, we broke. Whereas COVID taught us so much is out of our control now, meaning things are going to come that we never knew could possibly ever happen. So as a result, COVID happened, and then multiple things have happened since then that are not ideal, but people are now going, they don't like it, but they're much more apt to say, well, we've got to deal with it now. So I think it opened us up to realize we can't control the things out of our control, but we can control our controllables, which is how we react, respond, the effort we give, the focus we give to something to then create a solution.
Yeah, because you opened it up very eloquently that adversity is a state of being uncomfortable. And a good friend of mine always used to say, the way to success is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That was Joe Polish that used to say that to me. But we went through COVID where we didn't have a choice. And everyone, the entire planet was uncomfortable. Surely you would have thought that would have taught us, okay, get used to it, adapt, edit, tweak. But are we still shying away from that uncomfortable status now? Are we still running away from it? Are we that stupid?
Here's the thing. I don't want to say stupid. I would say I do think more people realized being agile was going to create innovation. So I do believe there's a population of people that did learn from it. And then those that have not, they choose to literally keep leaning into staying in a comfort zone rather than getting uncomfortable. And there's a comfort crisis. And I want to just say to them, if you're listening, staying in the comfort zone is never going to help you. So if you have not learned that staying in the comfort zone is not helping you, I want to say, how's that working for you? Because you're not growing. So shift your mindset, lean into the uncomfortableness of things that come, and look at it as, I'm now a problem solver. I find solutions, and even in the middle of adversity, when you look at it that way, I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt when adversity comes, but you're going to go, great, what do we do about it now? Because I can't change it. It's here. Now all I could do is control what's right in front of me, which is lean into it, face the adversity head on, and make something of it so that you can move through it.
Now, you've spoken to many, and you've already said it earlier, to many of the greatest athletes out there in a wide range of different sports. And in every sport, unlike school, there's a winner and then there's a loser. You know, you don't get a certificate and a badge for just showing up. There's a winning team, and then there's the team that people have forgotten already. So when you are part of that losing team and you come off the pitch, come off the court, and all of a sudden you're faced with you and you're feeling like, well, it's his fault. He dropped the ball. He did this, and you want to throw the blame. How do you actually twist it to get people to go, hang on a minute, here's an opportunity for you? Walk us through that mentality, because as entrepreneurs, let's be blunt, it happens all the time. Yes. And we sit there going, oh my God, why has this happened to me? Because it happens to us all. But at that moment in time, we think we're being persecuted. We think we're being picked on. We think the world hates us. We think that, we made the wrong decision and we should have stayed at flipping burgers at McDonald's. How do you get that mindset corrected in a A-class athlete?
There is a principle that I put in the book called seeking and applying feedback. I help them to understand we live in a world, especially at that level, you can't grow unless you seek and then apply the feedback. So as soon as the game is over, whatever the challenge was, we go right to film and we start watching it, because film tells all. You can't blame someone when the play's right in front of you. Whose fault with it? It's going to be right in front of you to show you. So when I look at it, as I show them and I coach them to say, look at this so that we could use it to help you move forward. We're not looking at this to place blame. We're not looking at it to place fault on anyone. We're looking at it as factual information that we could use as information to move forward. So I try to take the emotion out of it when we're applying feedback. Because if I could remove the emotion of blame game, which every entrepreneur could do too, is seek the feedback, say, hey, what is it like working with me? What did I do during this time that could have been better? And you're just looking at as information to use to go forward, no emotion. Take the emotion out. And when you could distance yourself from your emotions when you're getting feedback, then you don't get defensive and try to push against it, because it's the feedback that's going to fuel you. And let me just say this, seek feedback from your trusted circle, because I'm not going to have an athlete go to Twitter and seek feedback. That person's not even in the arena with them. I'm going to have them seek feedback from watching video so that they could go forward.
The only problem I've got with video is that most of us as entrepreneurs, we don't have a video of our failures. So, in which case you can't go to it and go, oh yeah, I can see that should have come over there. We don't have that benefit anymore. So how can we look after that?
I wrote about this too, because what you do is you actually have to go out and ask people. So you don't have the true video view, but you could go and seek feedback saying, what was it like in that meeting with me? How could I have done it different? What you have to actually seek the feedback in order to fix it to go forward. So that's how you technically watch back film, is by going and asking people for feedback so that you know how to get better. Because in the business world, especially corporations, you get a performance review once a year. There's no way you could grow with trying to get feedback one time a year. So when you're trying to build a business, get a board of directors around you, personal board of directors, and start seeking feedback. Even seek it from your customers early on. That's how you start to get better and get ahead of the curve.
All right. So now we're coming back into a circle of being uncomfortable. I can imagine there are many business owners out there going, it's uncomfortable and makes me feel vulnerable to go to my peers, my friends, my clients, and to court that feedback where quite openly, that's the only place you really care. I've often said that I don't care about your opinion for someone that doesn't pay me, but those people that are paying me, I'm going to listen to you, you know? So it's a very uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. How can they get over that?
I'm just going to reframe it and say, I'm working with the pros who are the best of the best. They have to get feedback in the middle of the game. So look at what makes the greats great. They literally have to get feedback from their peers in the game while they're doing it and right after from all their peers in video when we watch video the next day. My point is, yes, it's uncomfortable, but if you want to be great, like you watch all the others greats be great, you have to start pulling the patterns that make them great, which is they're getting that feedback. I can't tell you how uncomfortable it is for a player to, after the game, to sit the next morning with all their peers around them while coach goes through and tells them where they messed up and where they did well. It's not fun, but they've accepted that this is part of the process to be great. So, founder, executive, entrepreneur, pick up the pattern from the others in sports to see that this is one of the very principles that will make you better. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but if you want to be better, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and you're going to have to seek it. Otherwise, you could start coasting and assuming things are going well. And then when a problem comes, you're thinking, oh, how did this happen? Well, you could have avoided it if you got feedback earlier on.
Pull the patterns that make the great great. Yeah, that's a t-shirt. So that makes total sense to be able to look at it and emulate the great people. And that's one of the beauties. Most great people are so far ahead of their game that they've got nowhere to compare themselves to. They've just got to exceed that lap record, that court dunk, that scorecard. They've only got stats to get better, but they do, and they evolve. The beautiful hack for us is we've got people as entrepreneurs that we can emulate, we can follow, and just literally just kind of ride their shadow by emulating the greats, by pulling the patterns that make them great.
That's right.
Is there anyone that's uncoachable?
Yes. The person that is, yes, there are people uncoachable that are ones that don't want it. I mean, truly, there's been people that someone said, oh, so-and-so would benefit from you coaching, but I could tell they're in a fixed mindset. They're not in a growth mindset. And they don't want to hear it, and they don't want anyone in. And I would say someone that has a high level of narcissism tendencies, that just thinks that, they don't need any help, that they could do it their way. They're not looking for someone to help them at that point. Truly, some of the best are the ones that say, I may be doing good. I even may be great at this, but I know I could be better. And they're open to it. So the person who looks at coaching and says, yeah, I don't need it, it's not for me, they're not coachable at that moment. I won't say forever. I'll just say at that moment.
Oh, I like that, at that moment. So again, it's a time. And there's the classic kind of like, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
So that's the classic there. We're in a gotcha society. We're in a cancel culture, where we're actually frightened of coming out, saying what we want, who we are, for fear of people kind of canceling us, or worse, ridiculing us. We're actually scared of laughter now. And like you made a comment there that if something goes wrong, don't go and seek feedback from Twitter. They're not paying for you. Just seek within. But if people are worried about stepping out and actually having that conversation straight off the bat to, hey, I want more. How do they first learn to be that vulnerable to be able to accept the teacher? Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think usually...
Because it's a scary world today.
It sure is. But I will say, when you align, like, first of all, if you're going to start seeking it, something in you is ready. It's scary, but there's something in you that's calling you. It's like a pinging. And you're going, I want something. I want someone to come alongside me and help me. So I would say if anyone's listening and they're starting to get that pinging in them, That's a cue to say, lean into that. And then, well, what a coach does, or what anyone does that you would put around you that's going to help you, is we're going to lean into your strengths, so that if you're doing the best that you can with the gifts you have and you truly believe it, well, we live in a world that you should be allowed. If you're doing it for the betterment of society, for the betterment of others, and not self-seeking or self-serving, then don't be afraid to speak and say what it is you need to say, do what it is you need to do, or show up the way that you feel called to. Because that's how we grow. We don't grow from all being the same person, from all having the same mindset or same belief system. We grow by having multiple views to see how we could see things through different lenses. And then you appreciate the opposing lens, but you don't have to be like them. You have to be like you, how you were created. Own that.
So they pick up your book from Barnes & Noble or Amazon and they read it cover to cover. What's the outcome that they should be comfortable as long as they make the action in seeing?
They will have 9 principles, which will be 9 steps. You could write each chapter out, write on a piece of paper, write the steps out so you could journal and put what works for you for each step. So where was the time you had to embrace the suck? What did you do about it? What is your hard wiring? Did you go and find out how you're made? Like, each principle will literally then give you a blueprint and formula for you, because it's not one size fits all, that you will have now a mental and emotional foundation. So when adversity comes, you go back to this blueprint, you stand stronger, you stand more confident. You don't stay in the quicksand. You get up, you get through it, and you move on from it. You start to turn the page.
We've spoken about being uncomfortable and how people shy away from it. And we know full well that anytime there's any kind of pain or uncomfortable situation, that's an opportunity for growth. Today, being confident, it's like the Holy Grail, you know, to be able to be confident enough. And we're both speakers, so we're used to speaking in front of thousands and thousands of people. And a lot of people can sometimes confuse us for being very, very confident people. But we're just very good at our job. The confidence mentality can sometimes be something that people fake it till you make it. And it can often be a shield. What's your opinion on confidence and how someone can actually own it?
I will just say this. Confidence is key. And I'm not saying a cocky confidence that is, again, set in a narcissistic tendency. I'm saying a confidence where when you understand your hard wiring and you've worked on your craft, own it. So I always give the example, if a heart surgeon was coming in to do heart surgery on us, and I looked at the doctor and I said, "Are you the best at what you do?" And if he said, I'm okay, I would be like, who brought this doctor in? But if he or she said, "No, I'm the best at what I do, you're going to be okay," aren't I going to feel better that that doctor was confident? Yes, I am. Same with, I want my pilot to be confident. I want my doctors to be confident. I want anyone around that's going to be confident. So I ask you, why would you not be confident in the craft and the work that you've been working on all this time? Because if you're not confident, then work on your skill more so that you can be confident. And like I said, this isn't a cockiness like you're a god. This is a confidence in, this is the craft I've been working on. You could trust me. I've got your back for whatever it is I'm hiring you in or working with you on. There's a beauty when someone has that confidence, and we should own our confidence, because if you're working on your craft, you have a service that someone could benefit from. So offer that. Own that.
I like that, because a lot of people do look at confidence as coming across as cocky and arrogance. But the way you highlight it, anytime you need anything done, the risk shouldn't be there. A pilot, a heart surgeon,
yes,
an optician, you want confidence. You don't want arrogance, which is usually the shield. You want the confidence. But I do like the fact that you said you've got to look within.
Yes.
Which actually comes back to a big theme we have today. In a world where we're scared of having conversations and we're scared of actually reaching out and standing out, the first conversation we should always have is with ourselves. We need to understand, what are we doing about it? What are we doing about the problem? again, like you say, those people that are aggravated, I always looked at, whenever I'm coaching people, I always ask you, are you pissed off? Are you really happy about your life today? Or are you pissed off about it? Are you pissed off about your bank account, your relationships, your client bank? And people that are aggravated, do something about it. And I guarantee you, no one that's on this podcast and listening to it is 100% happy or 100% settled. They're aggravated individuals that want and demand more, and they're looking for an advantage from, in this situation, the one and only Coach Dar. So I want to ask one other question, because I did a speakeasy in Dallas last week, and this theme kind of brought up all the way through this mastermind of introvert. Are you an extrovert or are you an introvert?
I'm an ambivert.
Ooh, come at me. What's that?
I'm a blend. So in my work that I do, I'm very extroverted, but how I refuel is very introverted. So I'm in the middle of people all the time, extroverted. But when it comes time where work is done or what I've done is done, you could find me at home or hiking or doing things. It might be just one-on-one. I love quality time, but it's usually an inner refueling that I do that is quiet. I could sit for hours and not talk to anyone, which most people be like, Dar, that must kill you. And I said, are you crazy? I love it. So they would never think that, because the work I do, just like you, Steve, we're out on stages speaking, but I refuel introvert. And I actually need to get away from all of the noise for a bit to get centered again so I could go back out and give what I have. And so they call that, I learned, an ambivert, which is a mixture of an extrovert and an introvert and how they refuel.
I've never heard that one before. That's absolutely beautiful. Again, tell us where they can get your book, and then tell us where people can follow you and find you in this world of digital.
You can get the book at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any bookstore nationwide. They can get it for you. You could go to CoachDar.com. That also has all the information. And then I say follow along on social media, The Coach Dar, at The Coach Dar. That's my Instagram handle and Twitter handle. And Darleen Santore is obviously my name. You can get it on LinkedIn or go to Coach Dar, and it has all my links there. But I put up mental fuel every day just to give people some tools and tips to stay fueled, to stay lit within, and stay connected and reach out if you need anything.
Fueled and lit within. I absolutely love it. You've given us so many t-shirt quotes. It's gonna be. I'm gonna fill my entire wardrobe now with Coach Dar quotes. So,
yes, Steve.
thank you very much for giving it and sharing and getting people challenging in the way they think, telling them quite simply that they should rejoice in being uncomfortable and allowing them to focus on what it takes to be confident and to be allowed to be confident. Coach Dar, you have been a charm and a pleasure to have on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Steve, so much for having me.
Bye. Hey, I hope you liked that episode of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast. And remember, these are done for you. If you like them, subscribe, share them around. But if you don't like them, send me an email to ask@stevesims.com, and you can tell me what I need to do to make this the most dynamic podcast you listen to. Anyway, make sure whatever you learned from the last podcast, you actually do something with. Without action, it's just a bunch of people blowing air. Have a good time. Until next time. Bye.